So you want to be a player. So you want the game, the real game. Well, I got y'all, man. Don't trip, man. Your homie Ed got you, man. So let's get right into it, y'all. So, if you ever been on a social event, most people done been to a party before. Whether a big party at the club, a function, a kickback, a house party. You know, social setting where you see a lot of people, just in a environment where everybody just kind of able to interact with each other, right? Having fun, you know. Y'all get it. Y'all get the rundown. So, you a single dude, you out there trying to figure out how to talk to these fifis, man. Well, I got some pointers. So, the lighting in this video gonna fluctuate, but y'all bear with me. All right, so look, check this out. So, if you one of them cats that's, I don't even say well established. Let's just say you got somewhat of yourself. You got something going for yourself. Maybe you got a job, a car, maybe you stay with your peoples, right? And you just out with the homies. Y'all smoking y'all weed. Y'all got the down hoolie going, you feel me? And y'all trying to hit up the local club or the local function. And y'all trying to mac on some biddies, you feel me? Some females. Now, why am I talking about this from this standpoint? Well, I ain't gonna say I know it all, but I know enough. You feel me? I would consider myself experienced. I wouldn't say I'm like some guru, some expert. But I know a little something about just about a little bit of everything. So, what is the common theme that I've seen back in the day when I first was going out, and even now, far as me still being in the mix, right? The common theme I see is that probably more than ever, dudes don't know how to talk to females. Like I'm not sitting up there saying like, all right, you don't know how to hold a conversation. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying getting out there and putting yourself out there. Why is that? Well, I feel like as more and more as advanced technology gets, it pulls a lot of people away from social interactions. You feel me? It pulls them away from, honestly, them getting to know somebody on an organic level, because everybody either online dating, you feel me, or meeting through mutual friends, whatever the case may be. And by and large, I mean, that's cool too. But this is why I see why a guy like me has a head over shoulders advantage over the everyday guy. Because as much success as I done had, I done probably had just as much or even more failures. And the male ego is brittle, right? Nobody likes to be told no. So if you out and about and you're not a celebrity where females just in groupie mode, it's gonna be kind of hard to have those interactions, those encounters where you vetting, you feel me? You surveying the scene and you getting to know these females, and you don't know them from a can of paint. Feel me? I ain't talking about no controlled environments. I'm talking about you literally putting yourself out there. And I'm gonna keep it 100, y'all. Like, this is not an easy skill, especially if you ain't developed it in your 20s. You're a 30-year-old man plus, and you have never walked up to a female you never seen, you never knew before. At this point, I would consider you socially awkward. At least in that aspect. I'm not sitting up there saying socially awkward all around. You might be the most personable, coolest person to get to know. But that's the key word of this video, you feel me? Like, how do you get to know somebody, right? You trying to get to know somebody. And how they gonna get to know you if you don't know how to present yourself to someone you've never met, seen before? And reason why I say this ain't easy is because that first initial line, that first initial impression, you only get one of them, which is your first impression. You don't know that landing words like, right? Your delivery and everything gotta be Mr. Mac Daddy player. You feel me? You ain't gotta be on that kind of level. You feel me? It's not even that deep. Most women would suffice with a simple hello, how you doing? You feel me? What's your name? Where you from? You feel me? It's the same play. It's the same play. If y'all a big fan of Madden, y'all know it's a bunch of plays in the playbook. But y'all really only playing with 6 to 8 plays at the most. You're not utilizing the whole playbook because you understand that there's only certain routes and certain, certain positions that's gonna be effective, right? And everything just kind of like just there, right? And it's the same thing with women, like you sit up there, go online, look up pickup lines and try to be all intricate and strategic, but just to get down to the real point of the video, you feel me? Because I'm done pointing out the deficiencies, because I ain't gonna sit up there and act like I just woke up one day and I was just this ladies' man, right? So here's some tips, some things for y'all to ponder on in order for y'all to have more success, what they would call cold approaching. Because this is what I'm talking about, you feel me? Cold approaching. The ultimate level of macking. The ultimate level of pulling a breezy. Feel me? Cold approaching. You don't know her, she don't know you. And to a certain extent, she don't even know why you even talking to her because of that, right? But scratch all that. Feel me? This been happening since the beginning of time, right? So here's my pointers. Here's some pointers for y'all. Sit up there and work on, because this ain't gonna be an overnight thing, especially if you've never done it before. So you might have some bad experiences with it at first, but it's gonna get better over time. So check this out. First and foremost, gotta get your signature appearance. And I'm not saying you gotta be the most flyest guy, right? Signature appearance, and I'm gonna tell you why this is important. So when you picking out outfits, so you heading to the mall, and yeah, there's some additives that could be a force multiplier like cologne and stuff like that. But let's keep it simple, right? Let's just say you got some Axe spray, you got some 3-in-1 body wash, you iron your clothes, you just get a t-shirt like this, feel me, a little hat or something, whatever accessories that you need, you feel me, get your hair cut, go ahead, get nice and groomed up, right? This is why I was pointing out that y'all gotta sit up there and get y'all appearance right, because this is what comes down to the presentation. Once you get that solidified, you ain't gotta do this every night, but you have to zero in on your body language and your facial expressions, certain words, because you have to master your nonverbals if you're gonna cold approach a chick. Because there's certain nonverbals that's gonna be indicators that there ain't no missed signals, right? Because when I'm macking a chick, it's nothing friendly, but it's nothing over the top or creepy at the same time. You feel me? It's you macking, and you making it apparent like, hey, I want you. You feel me? I'm interested. This is what your nonverbals gotta give off, but it ain't gotta be nothing thirsty, right? So, with that being said, once you get your nonverbals down as far as your facial expressions, When you sitting up there knowing how to squint your eyes or know how to move your eyebrows or knowing how to smile, feel me? This is going to emanate a charm about you. Once you get that down, you feel me? Then we got to move over to the next thing, which is what I was mentioning before, your plays. What are your plays? Your plays are your questions. You feel me? And not questioning so much to where it feels like an interview, but questioning like you're inquiring. You're interested, right? And you're not just asking these questions out of formality just because you're trying to make up small talk. You know, these questions got to have a purpose and an intent behind them. That's why you get the general ones out the way, right? The general ones. And I'm going to tell you what are the general ones. And like I said, this is free game for y'all. This is what this podcast is about. Free game, Head of the Game podcast, right? So, first and foremost, how are they doing? This is, y'all could take this and y'all can make it your own, or y'all could do this step by step. And for at least for me, it definitely has a high enough success rate to where, you know, things could improve, but you know, over time you get experience, right? So, first and foremost, how are you doing? How are you doing? You don't give a fuck about how she doing, generally, but it's a good icebreaker, right? Because if the interest is mutual, then she'll ask, how are you, as well, right? But she might genuinely wonder how you doing because you went out your way. It's a kind gesture, right? After that, let's get right to it. Let's not beat around the bush. What's your name? Okay, boom. After she give you her name, you introduce yourself. Okay, that's cool. My name is so-and-so. Where are you from? Boom. Why do you care about where she's from? You don't really care about where she's from. This is just an indicator of trying to understand her background, right? You're trying to learn her and you're interested in her. And most people that are being talked to, it's flattering to them if you're interested about who they are, because who they are ultimately leads you into their interests and what stimulates their mind, right? So it's a good icebreaker. Boom, you end up asking her where she from. All right, she tell you where she from. Now, based off of the answer, it could go one or two ways. You either know about the place where she from, or if you don't, then you can ask a lot of follow-up questions. There's no bad answers to this if you know how to go about running it, right? Okay, boom. You get the where she from out the way. Then let's get down to the real intention. Who you here with? What you doing? How long you been here? What is this indicating? This is indicating that, hey, if you are free or if you are available, I know you didn't come out here to possibly mingle, but if you did, I'm trying to inquire about how your night going. How you trying to have it finished? You feel me? Do you have the time to talk to me for me to get to know you? Right? These are all indicators that's getting her mind going. And it's nothing friendly. It's getting straight to the point, straight to the business. All right, okay, boom. You end up figuring out what she doing. All right, her homegirls, this, and that. She might sit up there and ask the same question. Who you up here with? If you dolo, say you dolo. If you from a certain place, say where you from. You feel me? Then, from there, you can take it anywhere you want to. For me, for example, right, after I would get all that established, I would sit up there and I'd probably just start freestyling at that point. Because you already set the stage for the encounter. All right, if the conversation's still going and you got an interest, then this is where you could throw jokes. You could compliment her. You could be like, dang, well, reason why I walked up to you, you feel me, you was looking good. And I couldn't help myself. You know, I just had to see about you. Could be some, you know, just, you know, you just laying it on, not thick, you just laying it on a little light. Like, all right, shit, I'm trying to see about you. You gotta have certain verbiage. You feel me? That separates you from her regular encounters, right? So boom, after you already done laid down the impression, then you can sit up there and be like, all right, what you do? You feel me? Do you work? Do you go to school? Do you got kids? Like, when you ask what you do, now because she didn't already open up the door as far as every other aspect of her life, now she can let you in a little deeper. Boom. All right. So if she got kids, boom. If you a dude that rock with, that's not a problem. You can keep it going. All right. You can inquire about the kids. All right. What the kids doing? What's the ages, genders, so on and so forth. All right. Man, you work at this place. How long you been working there? All right. What brought your interest into getting into this field of work? Right. Boom. Then you can sit up there, whatever answer she give you, you can sit up there and follow that up with an opinion, right? So let's say she in nursing, right? Boom. She been in nursing. She a traveling nurse, and she been, doing her thing for 3 years. Oh yeah, I just like, helping people out, and I just had this origin story of taking care of my peoples, and you can throw a little joke in there. All right, well sure, all right, dang. So you make sure you make sure the people you love, you take care of them. Yeah, that's a good trait. That's a compliment. You feel me? Now you inquiring and sitting up there cultivating, a certain narrative around what she do. Now you acknowledging her and giving her validation without being thirsty, right? Because now you inquiring about her interests. It's beyond surface level. All right. So after that, you can sit up there and be like, hey, well, sure. Well, what's your dreams like? What you like to dream about? Do you have any fears? What are your strengths? You feel me? And this after you, and that's why I sit up there and say, like, I could keep going on and on, right? But this is the whole part about running your plays, knowing your plays, because every female is gonna decide to answer said situations or said answers in a different way, right? So just like the Madden analogy, if you sitting up there and you already got your play set up, but then they got, you feel me, a lot of people in the box, which meaning that they drawing a lot of defenders towards the line of scrimmage, then that means your receivers are people that's out wide, you feel me, might be in a position to be in a one-on-one coverage, and you might be able to throw it over the top, you feel me, and be able to push the ball down the field. Meaning that what that would translate into, female playing hard to get, right? But let's say she playing hard to get, but then you break the ice and you make her laugh. All right, now she vulnerable, right? Because maybe she is a little socially awkward, right? But she easy to talk to once you get to know her. But you don't want to allow yourself to be deterred by the formation. You feel me? You got to know how to call that audible. Okay, we was finna run a run play. You feel me? And just try to incrementally get down the field, but I want to throw a bomb. So, you feel me? Throwing that bomb might be sitting up there throwing a joke. You feel me? Or she giving you a hard time and you give her a hard time back. But you're not sitting up there drawing an attitude. You just being a little bit more assertive, right? A little bit more dominant. Some females, especially if they bad, they pretty, they stuck up, they not just go give it to you easy. They're gonna make you work for it, at least through the first couple of sentences. Once you show that dominance and let her know, like, hey, you bad and all, but I'm just not know anybody, you feel me? So if I'm coming out to talk to you, you feel me, gang gonna recognize gang. The eyes don't lie, and you can tell when a woman is intrigued and you exuding a certain kind of energy, but that, like I said before, take time to reinforce that confidence, right? What else I could tell y'all about code approaching? All right, let's talk about spacing, right? What I mean by spacing is that you sitting up there, you taking out the time to really understanding how close and how far away you need to be. Because if you invaded her personal space to where you feel like you harassing her, she gonna clam up and she gonna push back. But if you too far away, then maybe it might be this void in between y'all where she may feel like, all right, well, what is in his intentions because it's not clear and apparent, right? So what would that mean, right? It's creating a social, it's leaving too much speculation. If you don't know proper space, and when you walking up on a female and you gotta do it smooth, right? And like I said, some of y'all gonna fuck this up. Some of y'all gonna fuck this up and get curved. I mean, I got curved a lot. But it's just like another analogy, right? If I'm a basketball player and my shooting percentage is shooting from 3, it's 38% in the NBA, that's considered good even though I'm missing more than half my shots. That's a good clip because you putting your numbers up, especially if you shooting that thing from a high volume, right? So if you a high volume shooter, you know, you're gonna see a lot more success than what people would think on the surface, you feel me? Because you're really failing more than you succeeding, but you're not caring about the failure. Because, you feel me, at the end of the day, the small sample size of success is gonna mask over the failure, right? Because of what you're benefiting from. So let's think of some more points, right? So we already got the talk game, right? We already got the presentation and the nonverbals. Then here we go. I'm gonna wrap this up with y'all. I might do a part 2 to this video. Feel me? Y'all just drop in the comments, man. Y'all rock it with this concept. I'm gonna spin the block, revisit this conversation. But the last one would be is that you gotta learn how to gauge the conversation to where it don't be too short, but it don't be too long. You gotta get in there and you gotta get out of there, right? So if it's too short and you don't leave too much of an impression, it might feel good in the moment, but she might wake up in the morning and be like, yeah, forget dude, right? After the club closed, after she get home, take a shower, go to sleep, she wake up, she comes to her senses, you know, she may not even rock with the impression that you laid, you know. So, but if you make it too long, right, you can oversaturate the impression and oversell it to the point to where there's no mystique. You're not leaving with her with nothing to think about because y'all done pretty much talked about everything, right? So you're not even leaving on her mind, you know, what else could she discover about you outside of the first impression? You know, like you want to save certain conversations, like, for instance, right, the deep shit. This is especially the things you don't want to talk about on the first encounter, right? Like exes, baggage, trauma, you know, personal stuff. You don't want to dive into that. That's too early. You want to know about those things, the red flags, but on the first impression, forget all that. Nah, that's not what you want to go for on the first impression. First impression is the first interview. Everybody got their representative, you know, showing up, and rightfully so, because all the baggage and all the things you working through ain't everybody business. I don't care if you are talking to them, right? So everybody gonna keep whatever the worst parts about themselves in the back pocket on that first impression. But when you follow up second, third, fourth conversation, right? When you start to get past the surface level and see how y'all align, you know, outside of just the on the surface stuff, then that's when you taking her on dates. That's when you sitting her at the park, you know, taking her back to the crib, and maybe y'all sparking up a blunt in the whip, you know, taking a little drive, so on and so forth, right? Those are the things you don't want to bring up when cold approaching a female, because it's too intrusive, you know, and it's too evasive, you know, like you're not evasive, that's not the word I'm looking for, but it's too invading, you know, inside somebody's personal life, especially on the first impression, right? So with all that being said, those are all the Those are the three things that I could sit up there and say y'all need to work on, right? As far as cold approaching women, and this is a lot of game that I inquired over many years, right? So if y'all some young cats, some older cats, you feel me? This podcast, yeah, it's me on here, but this podcast for y'all, man. It's for y'all, you know. And who knows? I could possibly learn from y'all. I do read the comments, stuff like that. So, thanks for watching, man. More videos of the way. Comment on the video, leave your thoughts, man. Like the video. Most importantly, last but not least, subscribe to the channel. More videos in the way. I'm gone.